All right, it is connecting right now. Let's see how that works. Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
All right, fire it up.
Okay. Let's do it.
The following program was pre-recorded for broadcast at this time.
The following program is sponsored by Mr. Texas Real Estate. Welcome to the Texas Real Estate Radio Network with Mr. Texas Real Estate Jason Bible and Mr. California Investor Robert Orfino. Join us as Jason and Robert talk about the hottest real estate market in the country, the entire state of Texas. Learn why Texas is such a great market to invest in and why it could be strong for years to come. Get ready to talk all things Texas on your new home on the way to the office. Texas Real Estate Radio.
Welcome to the show. Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Rob is not here. In fact, neither is Catherine. They are in fact, if you're following them on Facebook, you'll know exactly where they're at. They're at Disney World. And Rob and Catherine are huge Disney fans. Huge. Like, that's how huge. We're talking huge Disney fans. So they are running around the park. There's nobody there. I keep telling everybody, this is the time to be traveling. If you're relatively healthy, if you know how to put on a mask, I know a lot of people on Facebook thinks this is a fake virus, it's not real. And I'm like, look, you just put a mask on. You can travel around the world. It's great. So Rob and Catherine, I think they have a Disney trip planned like every other month. So they're just going to keep going because there's nobody there. Perfect time to go. When is the perfect time to buy real estate? When nobody's buying. Of course, that's not true. That's not going to be true for probably close to another decade. The second best time to buy real estate was yesterday, and the third best time to buy real estate is today. Why? Because real estate is getting really expensive. Last week, I highlighted an article. The price of lumber is up 250% since April. In fact, those of you who do new construction know that your framing packages have almost doubled in price. This is why we tell folks, if you're going to get into ground up new construction, you got to be doing it at 50%. All in, below market. Because little stuff like this happens all the time. We just had a hurricane. Friday, I was out driving around looking at some of our assets. Everything worked out fine. There's one property we have under contract that I know got some water in it. The agent and the seller are both telling me it got no water in it. I'm like, dude, I have pictures of the water line on the outside of the house. The RV park, which is next door, is underwater. It got water in it. So we're playing that little game right now with a seller and their agent, which is funny. But by and large, everything worked out pretty well. One thing I did notice, I was down in Surfside. If you guys get on my Facebook page, you'll see the videos I took of Surfside. They lost a lot of their dunes. That front row of dunes is just about gone. This is one of the risks you have when you buy front row, like on the beach housing. So I don't know if they're going to rebuild those dunes. I don't know what the plan is. They're going to have to figure something out because inside of a decade, those houses will probably be gone. Ocean will just take them. My closest house is 3 rows back. So I got a couple more storms and we'll be beachfront in no time. Although my guess is they're just going to build those dunes back. But a lot of the dunes got washed away. And there's some reasons why, and I talked about that on my Facebook Live video from Friday, so you guys can go take a look at that. So as soon as I got done at Surfside, I drove up to Frankston, Texas. Now, I know all of you know exactly where that's at. Don't worry, I didn't either. Frankston, Texas is between Huntsville and Tyler in the Piney Woods. If you guys aren't familiar with how Texas kind of broke up. East Texas, closer you get to Louisiana, it turns into what's called the Piney Woods. Why do they call it Piney Woods? Because there's a lot of piney woods there. Sam Houston National Forest is there. It's a big piney woods side of Texas. So we were playing at a golf course there that actually had these little rooms, these little bungalows on the course. So this weekend was our fantasy football draft. So every year, there's 12 of us that travel around to the top 100 golf courses to play golf and draft our fantasy football teams. This is the 23rd year of our league. 23 years. I didn't get into the league until 2002. So they've been playing since like 98, if my numbers are right, 97, 98. So 23 years. It's a long time. Long time with a lot of the same guys. Had a great time this weekend. I will tell you this. I have played golf in Scottsdale, Arizona in August before, 110. That's warm. I have never played a more miserable weather-wise round of golf than I had on Saturday. I don't know what was going on. Maybe this is remnants from the storm, but it was 100 degrees and like 90% humidity and no wind. It was oppressive. I have never felt that kind of heat in my life. It was ridiculous. It was kind of like being in one of those Instant Pot pressure cookers. You're just being like it's kind of like putting eggs in that thing. You're just being like cooked from the outside, the inside, the pressure, just everything's wet. There's no wind. It was atrocious. So I drove up Friday. We played around Friday, played another round Saturday, and played another round Sunday morning. And I always forget how much I enjoy golf. Go out there and play, and I'm like, man, I could play this every day. And then I remember I live in South Texas. And the summers here are just, I can ride my bike when it's this hot. I cannot play golf when it's this hot. It's ridiculous. Now, you guys that live in Southern California, you can walk out of the house, go play a round of golf, and you don't have to take a whole shower. You don't need an hour to cool down and to take a shower. It's pretty nice. But down here, when you're on these 2 and 3 shirt days, it's rough. So that was my fun weekend. And while I was when I was up in Frankston, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to catch up with all the news, everything that's going on. And it looked like more people shot in Portland or Seattle or Chicago or whatever city and state that can't manage their city or state. And I'm just looking around. I'm watching all these poor business owners. It's funny. I can't, you'll see a video that pops up on YouTube. And it could be somebody with a cell phone camera. It says, hey, who are you? I'm Bob, with Bob's Furniture Emporium. And he's standing in front of this burnt out building. And he's like, yeah, that was my family business and my father started 45 years ago. And it's gone. And they're like, well, what do you think of that? I'm like, well, it's terrible. We didn't have anything to do with any of this nonsense. And then the video gets pulled from YouTube. Colia Noir had a really great video montage on YouTube. And he didn't have any commentary. He used to work with the NRA. He doesn't do that anymore. But he's a gun advocate. It's probably the Second Amendment advocate's the best way to describe who he is. All he did was just put all these videos together of all the stuff that's happened over the last 3 days that you've not seen on the major news networks. And I can tell you you probably haven't seen it because I am trying to inform myself on what the national media is actually presenting out there, in part for real estate, but also I'm watching the civil unrest stuff. I'm watching the election closely too. Why? Because there's going to be enormous implications for real estate. Truth be told, and Rob and I talked about this last week, we would probably make more money, way more money, in a Biden administration. I will not be voting for Biden, but I'm just telling you that's if the tax plan and all that other stuff he's got laid out, we will probably make more money for a handful of other reasons. But I get back from the break, I want to talk about why the civil unrest stuff is really important to real estate. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network.
you heard about the big dune?
Do it.
You heard about the big dune and bay gates that they're going to put in Galveston? It's a project that goes. You talked about the.
Are they gates like way out in the ocean?
No, they're right at Galveston where it goes into the bay.
Oh.
You know, like they do in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
But it also includes dune work all the way.
Mm.
I mean, miles down the coast. It's going to be, like 20 gajillion.
Yeah,
dollars.
$1 jillion or
But
something.
it's 10 years in the making.
Yeah.
So.
Just means your beach is going to be ugly for 10 years.
All right, save as. Come on, do this. $16.6.
Morning, everybody.
Okay, right?
Yes, ready to go.
Are we? Yes.
All right, welcome back. So I'm watching all this civil unrest, more people getting shot, more, red teams fighting blue team and blue teams fighting red team. Be quite honest, it's all kind of boring to me anyway. So, this group hates this group and they hate whatever. It's so fun. We're fighting. I'm sitting there and I'm watching these things. And I'm watching what the NBA is doing. I'm watching what MLB is doing. I'm watching what's going on in social media. And I keep asking people, what is the actual protest? Like, what exactly are we? As near as I could tell, BLM is a get out the vote campaign. That's all I can figure that this thing is. And I keep digging and digging and digging. It's either a get out the vote campaign or it's a really seedy socialist organization. Especially if you look at the folks who founded it. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, so we got all these protests. And Rob and I have given our opinions on a couple of these things. And I don't mind giving them to you now. I mean, I think although we watched that video and it looked absolutely horrific, but I don't know if they're going to be able to convict Officer Siobhan in the killing. I just don't. There's a rumor out there that is actually how they were trained by their police department. If that's the case, he gets off. They released all the body cam footage, but you can't find that anywhere. It gets loaded up and then gets pulled down. There is part of me that when I start digging around in this stuff, that a lot of these protests and heck, Rand Paul, if you guys have not seen the story about Rand Paul up in D.C., he and his wife were at at Trump's speech last week. The Secret Service actually loaded them on a bus, took them like 5 blocks away to another hotel to stay at. They wanted to go to their hotel. They took an Uber and tried to walk 2 blocks. And if there was a mob of people that soon went from 20 to 30 people to over 100 that were trying to get at him and his wife and a couple of their friends. And there were like 7 police officers blocking these people. If they were not there, they'd be dead. We'd be talking about Rand Paul has gotten killed. And you know what? Rand Paul's almost gotten killed like 3 times now. Like, they really have it out for that guy. Like, if there's like a, kind of a random, somebody gets shot at, ends up at the hospital, gets beat up. I mean, that kind of happens. When it's the 3rd or 4th time, they're really out for Rand Paul. Let's just be real honest about it. So he almost got killed last week, walking with his wife and a couple of friends to the hotel after Trump's presentation at the White House. And one of the things he said, and we've heard this over and over again, is the folks that are here are not locals. And they're starting to find out, and we've known this for, since 16, actually since about 2014, that a lot of these people are being paid by other groups. So the question is, what is BLM? Sure looks like a get out the vote campaign to me. But then I'm listening to Tucker a couple of days ago, and Tucker says, what's weird about this whole thing is we know that mail-in voting disproportionately affects minorities and the young from voting. So why would the Democrats be pushing this right now in the middle of coronavirus? And it's so weird, the only answer to all this is they want to lose. So they can claim the election is not a legitimate election. And we can go through Russiagate 2.0 for another 4 years. Because here's the problem. I keep looking around. I'm like, okay, so what's all the marching about? What's all the protesting about? Like, someone explain to me. I mean, really explain to me, what's the end result? What do you really want to see change? So I start digging around in the data, and I'm like, I don't see I really don't see things changing. I just don't. It seems like every single one of these police shootings, I shouldn't say all of them, but a huge percentage of them, that when the video comes out, the media gets everybody whipped up, they turn out to be nothing. It was funny. I posted a meme this weekend. I like getting my Facebook page a little riled up on the weekends. You guys don't have anything else better to do. I mean, let's be honest. There's not really any restaurants open. Bars are closed. You can't go to any games. There's just really nothing going on. You can't hang out with family. You can't do birthday parties. You can't have a house party. You can't do any fun stuff. So I like getting everybody a little whipped up on Facebook. Most people think it's funny. Some people take it real seriously. But I posted this meme, and it was talking about the shooting that occurred with the young guy, 17-year-old kid, who was at one of these rallies in Wisconsin. Turned into a protest. He shoots 3 people, kills 2. Well, it turns out the 2 people he killed have a questionable record with law enforcement. So in this little meme, it said something like, it showed an NFL ref, and he's making the sign for first down. And the kid was 17. Now, my understanding, I have not reviewed state law. This is just what I read on the internet, that he was not supposed to have that rifle. And I believe it's not that he couldn't have the rifle, it's that he couldn't open carry. But again, I'm not an expert on different states and their gun laws. So the little meme said, it said, illegally carrying a firearm, but killing 2 alleged sexual predators, offsetting penalties, first down. I thought it was pretty good. Even if it's not true, I was like, this is pretty funny. Illegally carrying a firearm, killing 2 predators, offsetting penalties, still first down. I was like, that's great. And then people started posting some real serious stuff. JC think it's okay for vigilante justice. And I'm like, well, let's have that discussion. Is it really vigilante justice if there's no police? That's the problem here. You want to defund the police, so the 17-year-old kid said, we're not doing that here. I think that's what's really upsetting, because this 17-year-old kid has got more wherewithal than most of the other men in that town. Who puts up with that kind of nonsense? Tucker Carlson said this the other day to Rand Paul. Like, why are we putting up with this nonsense? I don't get it. And I don't either. Let me put it this way. None of this is happening in Texas. Nah, it's happening in Austin. But it ain't happening here in Houston. Sure ain't happening in Dallas. Definitely not in Fort Worth. So why is it happening all these other places? You've seen a number of these protests where they end up in some suburban neighborhood and they get out acting like they're all tough, and 3 or 4 of the dads what I like to call them, the dads, middle-aged dudes with their families, get out of their cars with all their rifles, and these guys turn tail and run. There's a story out there, there's video, but no one's been able to show it. There's video of a bunch of these clowns, like 30 or 40 of them, rolling into a neighborhood. Guy walks out of his house, shoots a shotgun over their head, and says, "Not in this neighborhood." They get back in the car and they leave. Everyone, like I said, it was like 30 or 40 of these guys, and they're gone. So what's really going on here? We'll get back. I'm going to talk about the implications for real estate and why this is so important. Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Yeah, Chris, I agree. I don't understand the open carry thing because they keep talking about it in regards to rifles, and it makes no sense to me. So I'm like, is this a state law thing? And quite honestly, I just don't care enough to go look. But
apparently he was okay to have a gun.
Yeah.
12 was the age.
Mm-hmm.
Now, open carry, I don't know, but
open carry usually refers to pistols. So I'm like,
right,
I don't,
right.
or handguns, probably a better way to say it. William says, you think they can, Democrats want mail-in voting so that when all the votes magically don't come in, they can call the process delayed, Pelosi become acting president. You know, I don't know. We have to go back to 2000, see exactly how that rolled out. I'm trying to remember with all the hanging chads and all that nonsense. I don't think. Here's what's going to happen. Well, so the question is if the process gets delayed,
Right.
So there's some data. I was listening to Meet the Press, which just gave me brain damage yesterday. I mean, I could have done meth for an hour and it probably would have been better.
Whenever you're ready.
All right, let's go ahead and fire. All right, welcome back. Why is all the civil unrest stuff important? Nobody, look, when you really get down to it, people are protesting. Nobody really cares. Like for the people that are not involved in the protest, they're like, whatever. They want to protest, fine. Shut down a city block for a couple of days. Like nobody, it's inconvenient, but it's not that big of a deal, right? Like nobody really, I mean, go protest. There's in certain cities, there's protests every day. I think Austin is one of them. It's like, there's a protest every day. In D.C., protests 365 days a year. All right, go protest. Yes, it's your right. You can go protest. The rest of us have work to do, but you can go protest, go have fun. Now, when it turns into this riot nonsense, people are getting killed. There's actually some video out there that some Trump supporters got hunted down and shot. Should be interesting to see if that turns out to be true. When it turns into riots and lawlessness, that's a whole nother game. In fact, Don Lemon of CNN fame let it leak last week when he was interviewing somebody from the Biden campaign. He said, look, if you guys don't start denouncing the violence and these riots, there's going to be a problem. In fact, we're already starting to see the lawlessness show up in polls and focus groups. And the Democrat Party has been real quiet about denouncing this stuff. In fact, I could argue they make the exact opposite statement, that we need, quote, more action, more, quote, direct action. Running around calling your opposition fascists. It's not good. So here you've got a guy with a furniture store that just got burned to the ground. Or you got real rich guys like Elon Musk. And they start looking around and they go, this is ridiculous. I'm going somewhere else. Now, what's interesting about Texas is our major urban centers may be blue, but the state is very Republican, very red. And when things got a little wonky down here in Houston, the governor just stepped in and said, my order supersedes all of your local orders. when they wanted to shut everything down again, when they wanted you to wear a moon suit to go outside to the park, the governor said, we're not doing that. My order supersedes all the local ordinances, which effectively cut all that down. Businesses are watching. I think the turning point was when Obama was president and our governor, the city, let me explain to you how incredibly powerful our governor here in the state of Texas is. If you're the governor of this state, you have a really good shot at becoming president. Because the state is so big, you get so much support, you get incredible experience in running a huge organization. So the governorship of Texas as a political stepping stone is enormous. It really is. So one of the things that I found fascinating is when Obama was president, we had a sitting governor that said, we just may secede from the union. Which in any other setting, in any other state, people would go, you're crazy, that's insane, you can't do that, there's no way you can support everyone freak out like, no, there's no way you can do it. This was right as Toyota was moving their North American headquarters to Texas. And it didn't bother them at all. They're like, well, it's Texas, guys are a little crazy, but, that's kind of like, that's why we like it down there. They kind of do their own thing, and if they don't like the rules, they just say, screw it, we're just going to go do our own thing. The problem with these protests, the problem with the riots is you're not leaving people alone. You can't even go to dinner. You get anywhere near these things in a car, and they start attacking the car. The craziest thing about Rand Paul and the folks that were trying to get at Rand Paul were that they were, I cannot remember the gal's name, but Rand Paul is the author of a bill to stop no-knock warrants. If you're familiar with no-knock warrants, literally the police just bust in and arrest folks. In fact, they tried doing that here in Houston. They do it all the time, but they did it here in Houston. A couple of cops got killed because they knocked on the wrong door. Now, they ended up killing the folks inside, but he took a couple of cops with him. So Rand Paul has authored legislation to say, hey, guys, this is not a good policing tactic. Well, the folks that were trying to get at Rand and his family were in support of the same thing he was, but they're so stupid they don't know what Rand Paul actually supports. I've seen video of a handful of other senators are just trying to go to dinner and they're getting screened out of the restaurant. Now, we are very insulated from a lot of this stuff here in Texas. And I'll tell you, a lot of business owners and wealthy folks are starting to look around and go, I don't want to live in Seattle anymore. I don't want to live in Boston. I don't want to live in any of these places. This is absurd. My family's at risk. My business is at risk. And if you're going to defund the police or, quote, reform the police, whatever that means, again, the problem I have with a lot of this, there's no metric in which you can stand next to. There's no policy in which you can stand next to and have a debate about. It's all just random violence. So here you are, a business owner with a ton of cash. Or maybe you don't have a ton of cash, but you got a decent livelihood. And you start looking around your city and it's burning. And you saw this happen for the last 2 or 3 times for the last 5 or 6 years. And you start looking around and you go, yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Or you're in a city that's got a whole bunch of coronavirus cases and they just shut it down for the last 6 months, impacting your business. And you start looking around and going, I really can't be here anymore. Rob just posted on Facebook. He said blue cities are done if they allow the riots to continue. And I think they are absolutely allowing the riots to continue. They are absolutely done. We are going to see a flight of capital. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people miss this. You guys are familiar historically with what's called white flight. All white folks moved out of the urban centers in part because of the highway system. That's not what this is. This is going to be worse. It's going to be anybody who has the means, financial means, is out. And where are they going to go? They're coming to Texas. They're going to come here and they're going to walk around and go, yeah, I get it. I mean, this place ain't perfect, but oh man, it's so much better than where I came from. I read a stat the other day, 40% of gun purchases, total gun purchases, since the start of the coronavirus, went to brand new gun owners. And I would guess a significant portion of those folks are not red state conservative gun-toting folks. These are people who are scared. And where are they going to go? They're going to go to a place where they are treated best, and that's going to be the state. You think real estate's expensive now? Just wait. Yeah, will the crab people rise up from the mud floods and become our overlords? Yeah, gun law is confusing because you're right. I like how you say Kenosha's a border town. Yeah, you got two different states. I don't get it. But the more I'm hearing, and I heard some stuff late Friday, that and I believe there's some video and there's also some witness testimony that the first shooting, I can't remember the kid's name, but the first shooting he was involved in, we shot that guy in the head, because you can see the video of the guy. He actually shot the guy in the head. He had rounds coming at him before it even. They were just standing there, and they just had rounds coming at him. And when they breached that barrier of those cars, that's when he shot that guy. And then everybody scattered. And then somehow, and then I don't know how that transition happened when he started running and down the street, and then ended up shooting those other two guys too. So we'll tell you this though: if you guys are, for those of you folks who are gun folks, that is a very good video. That's a very good training video. It really is.
Ready when you are.
Yep.
This is for last second.
All right. Rob sent me a message on Facebook here. He said, highways gave the middle class the way out after 1968 riots took cities 30 years to recover. And he's absolutely right. Of course, the middle class back in 68 was like 98% white. So here's what's going to happen in these cities. And it's not going to be divided on racial lines. It's going to be divided on economic lines. Do you have the cash? And is your job mobile enough to get out? They are just getting out. I guarantee you, here are all these families. They're looking around. They're going, we moved here because it's a little bit closer to the office. And I like this side of town because it's, close to everything. And, the park's 2 blocks away and all that other stuff. But I got to get out of here. It's going to happen. In fact, you can see it. One of the things, I don't necessarily believe this, but it's a good indicator. When you look at data on the edges of a data set, they tell really interesting stories. So let me give you that far right side edge. Wealthy people in New York are moving out of New York as fast as humanly possible. That's why you're seeing those markets absolutely on fire. They're looking around New York City and going, this place is burning, and I can't go to my restaurants, and can't get the kids in school. This place is awful. It's really not that great anyway, so I'm just going to move somewhere out here where I get some acreage and a big, beautiful house for the same price. They're gone. Hey, families that aren't as wealthy are looking around going, hey, you know what? We got an office in Houston. I wonder if I can transfer down to the office in Houston. Or they're sitting in Seattle and they're going, there's a couple of companies that are hiring in Austin and they're looking for a project manager and programmer with my skill set. Maybe I'll go see the guys down at AMD there in Austin. See if I can get a job down there and move myself out. Me and the family out of Seattle. There's a great interview on Tucker Carlson Friday night about I can't remember the name of the organization, but basically it's an organization inside the Republican Party that welcomes in Democrats. And I can't remember what the name of the organization is. It's like Turn Away or Turn In, something like that. And this gentleman and his husband were leaving the White House, and the amount of anti-gay slurs and those sorts of things that were hurled at them, he said he had not heard in 10 years. He said it was bad. So a lot of these folks are looking around and they're going, look, this Democratic Party does not represent me. This is crazy. I was listening to Tim Pool yesterday, who is by no means conservative. And he said until about last year, he was like, there will never be guns in this house. We will never own firearms. Like, I won't even want firearms in my office or in the house or none of it. And this year he's like, well, just bought my first gun. This thing's getting crazy. And he said, I'm looking at the Democratic Party and they're supporting some really wild stuff. And I don't support any of this violence. I don't want to be a part of any of this stuff. You're seeing a lot of left-leaning folks that are out there looking around going, where did this freak show come from? And I don't want any part of it. Now, don't get me wrong. They don't like Donald Trump. I mean, Trump's entertaining. I'll tell you that. But he is nowhere near my first choice on who should run this country. Rest assured. He's fun. I enjoy it. It's kind of funny. But, I mean, and I'll just tell you my prediction right now. Assuming nothing else changes, assuming this is kind of how it looks for the next, this is crazy, guys, 65 days, that's how close we are to the election, Trump is going to win in a landslide. It's not even going to be close. I don't think these riots are going to abate anytime soon. Businesses can't open up. I mean, you are 65 days from the election, and a significant portion of the country is still shut down. You've got, Kenosha's a great example. When the protests went to riots, which took about 6 minutes to turn into riots, they've got all this documentation going back and forth with the governor saying, hey, look, we're ready to send in the National Guard. You got to allow us to do it. We just can't send the National Guard into a state. How many people had to die before they go, oh, well, yeah, I guess that's a pretty good idea. I mean, Portland was under siege for 3 months. So this election is, we're 65 days out. And this is another thing I'm going to tell you. What I could be completely off base. And again, this is just what my opinion is with regards to the information I have today. I keep watching these, quote, these bad police shootings of, quote, unarmed, innocent folks doing nothing but just, putting their hands in their pockets or whatever it is that everyone's claiming that they're doing that's not threatening. And then more information comes out, and you're like, well, yeah, we don't want to shoot people, but you're like, geez, the guy had a knife, then he was running around, he was fighting with cops, he had one in a headlock, and then he was jumping in the car, and he was, who knows when he was getting in the car, he was already fighting with these guys. You start to get more and more information, like, what is going on here? And here's the problem, Trump gets reelected, what do you think is going to happen this time next year when all these cops start going to court? And then all the information comes in, and there's 6 more of these shootings. Now, don't get me wrong. These are relatively rare. It's a couple a year. I think it's like 30 or 40, 50 of these a year. And now we've got a lot of videos. So now we're getting these video of these relatively rare events. It is pretty rare for this stuff to happen. And then when it happens, it's the national media, and everyone thinks it's like there's just people getting gunned down in the streets by cops, which is absolutely not true. Now we have thought leaders and elected officials in these cities that are in support of the most radical ideas on the left. So here you are with your family as a business owner, and you're looking around and going, wow, half the city burnt last night, honey. Do we really want to be here much longer? Elon Musk is obviously a genius. It's brilliant. And where he lives in California it's beautiful. And he's selling all his homes, moving his entire family to Austin. Joe Rogan, who is also a thought leader. By the way, none of these guys are conservative. Let's just get that out there right now. These guys aren't Trump supporters. So now you got Joe Rogan, who's lived in LA, I think, since the 90s. And they're moving to Texas. They're not the only ones. Now is the time to be invested in Texas real estate. The returns are going to be fantastic. The growth's going to be insane. Thanks for watching the show, guys. We'll have a short message after the break. It's good chatting with you. See you guys tomorrow. That was number 4, right?
That was it. You did
Yeah,
good.
perfect.
Check the listings in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Sharpstown. They're above 300 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always thought Sharpstown was a
north
little.
of me.
Yeah.
That's the north neighborhood, so that's better.
It's
But
coming.
my house is going to be over 2 here in the next year.
Yeah.
Really?
I've told you guys for like 5 years now. Sharpstown was a little secret because it's right in the back door of the Med Center. Gallery is right here. Downtown's right there. And most importantly, this is, the studio's here. So it only makes sense the value go through the roof. But all right, thanks for watching, guys. We will see y'all tomorrow or later today.